Welcome to the Oshow. I'm Laura Babcock, and we weren't planning on doing a Valentine's Day special, but we kind of had to because there was a meeting in Hamilton of such importance that was such a shit show that we wouldn't be doing our responsibility as a show not to cover it. The Police Service Board met, and they didn't want to meet. They were forced to meet because the new members on the board made a point of going back to council and saying this board hasn't done its job. We need to go back and look at the budget again. They even came forward, Cameron Kretsch and Angeli, they came forward with recommendations to save $5 million, not on anything that would take police off the streets or nothing like that, just stuff like on $1 million for the horse budget for ceremonial stuff and public relations costs, stuff like that. Not only was it not even considered, but the Police Services Board tried to stop the meeting from being seen by the public by making it secret, putting it in a small room, not letting people in, then saying they couldn't get the live stream working. If it wasn't for Joey Coleman, our intrepid local independent journalist, we wouldn't have even seen the shit show. But now that we have seen it, and we'll show you a clip, as painful as they are, and I got to warn you up front, it's painful to watch. Now that we've seen it, there are two big things that come out of this. And we're going to talk to Graham Crawford, of course, former Citizen of the Year, who watched the whole thing. And I'll also talk to Cojo Damptey because I want to get his reaction. He's been passionate about the police budget for years. So two things I came out of this, and then I'll go to you, Graham. One, what is the point of these police services boards? They were rubber stamps and they weren't even good at it. It was embarrassing to watch. And two, what the hell happened to Mayor Andrea Horwarth? Everywhere I go, people ask me what it's like to have her as an NDP mayor. And I'm like, well, first we couldn't find her for a year. And now that we have found her, she is going the opposite way on every vote that people who brought her into office expected her to. And I think yesterday was the final straw from what I saw on social media. Some of them have had it with her, they're calling her a red Tory, they're calling her whatever, but not the mayor they expected. So Graham, you watched the shit show. What was your takeaway?
Well, let me start with the meeting itself and the chair and the dialogue, and then move to Andrea. What I saw yesterday, having been personally involved in presenting to police service boards for literally over 40 years in Toronto, I saw progress. I didn't see failure. There are people online who are saying, "Oh, these two, Councillor Kretsch and Dr. Menezes failed." You're naive if you think that's what actually happened yesterday. Progress was made. We've got people sitting on the board as members who are doing decent, high-quality scrutiny of the police budget. What usually happens is it gets, of course, it simply gets rubber stamped, and Andrea helped that happen yesterday. So I left the meeting proud of what those two people did for our community, to try to find savings at a time when all residents are saying, I'm having trouble paying my bills. The tax bills just came out yesterday, at least mine did. I got mine in the mail yesterday. I'm okay, but I know this is tough for people. So there should have been pushback. There wasn't. Let me switch to Andrea. I think Andrea is a minnow. She is a mayor in name only. She is not representing the needs of the residents of Hamilton. She effectively said yesterday, hey, I don't run the police service board for the police service, so what do I know about anything? It's like, well, that kind of comes with the territory. That's why you're there, to help, to do oversight. She didn't do the work. She's lazy. I see her as lazy. But even worse, Laura, I have now reached the final conclusion. I hope it doesn't get worse. God knows I don't know how it could. Andrea Horwath, in my opinion, is the enemy of civic progress. This city is going nowhere under her so-called leadership. She's not leading. It's just a series of bromides and platitudes and cliches and banalities. That's all she does. She doesn't do the hard work. She also takes credit for work she didn't do, that she had nothing to do with. So she can keep saying collaboration. She said to councillors, I saw it today at a council meeting, she's proud of the collaboration they've demonstrated. Proud? What, you had nothing, you don't have a right to be proud. You had nothing to do with it. They did it, not you. So you save your pride for stuff that you actually had some input on. So I'm also seeing people who I know voted for Andrea who are now regretting that vote. Every time we do a show, Laura, there seems to be more people who go public. They type, they use their real names and say, I voted for her. I'm disappointed. Uh, I regret my vote.
It's the fact that I think that Andrea sold a bill of goods to
Mhm,
people. And
mhm.
and you voted for her. You've supported her not in the mayor's election, but in the
Yeah,
past, you've
I
supported her
did. Yeah.
financially, right? And so it's like I've seen up till now people going, why? Where is she on homelessness, Laura? Where is she? And I have another op-ed in the Spectator. We're going to do a full show on the homeless crisis in Hamilton on the next Oshow with somebody who's like right in the trenches and fighting hard and making big news on it. And so we're going to have her on the Oshow for the first time. But people see all the homelessness and they say to me, where's the mayor? Where's the mayor? Where's the mayor? I've been hearing it for over a year and a half. Now that the mayor has shown up on the LRT meeting, she went against what all the union delegations thought she was going to do by kicking it down the can, and people were furious about that, right? This police service board nonsense up until yesterday was just like, what game is she playing? And that was deeply concerning for people. And as we talked about, her lack of any kind of visibility or effort on the homeless front, on the biggest challenge of our time. But yesterday, she didn't even sound like someone who ever thought that the policing budget should ever be looked at. It was like lockstep, old school, solidarity, old guard. In fact, we're going to run a clip, Graham, and I apologize to our Osho viewers. But see if you can find in the long babbly stream of collaboration, blah, 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 the point where she actually uses one of the lines from the old guard. That's like triggering for me. And we'll talk about it on the other side of the clip. And again, apologize, but she doesn't make any points. She just rambles, but we have to show you what she's like.
I want to say that it really does behoove us as board members to make sure that we are following not just the letter of the law, if you will, when it comes to the act that we are governed by, but also I think it's important that we make sure that we're not inadvertently sending a different message to the public in terms of what can and cannot be done in terms of the operational work at this board and making sure that we're not in contravention of the act is really important. And I would say that I think that there are real misunderstandings out there, and I think it behooves us to not continue to allow those misunderstandings to exist or to feed into them, if you will. But I do think that there is also another piece to this, Chair, that we need to work on, and that is something that was mentioned in comparison to other processes, and that's around collaboration. There was no collaboration here whatsoever, and that is the crux of the matter, I think. And we have to find a way to be better at that. Now, I would submit that the process here was fraught initially. In terms of attendance and members even in place at the time. But that's not a reason to not try to collaborate and work together. And I would just hope that going forward, that's where we are. I do say, though, once again, as a member of this board, my job is to be a member of this board and to work with all of you other members around the table, as well as the service, to try to provide the best possible service at the best possible investment and savings, I guess, with the public in mind, and to do that in a way that is beneficial to Hamiltonians writ large. And I say that because I still worry, leaving this meeting today, that we will have misinformation in the public in terms of our constraints around the operational matters of this board. You can't, go around and do things through a back door as opposed to doing them up front. It doesn't sit well with me, quite frankly. And so let's have a little more collaboration going forward. And I think that would be very, very helpful to all involved, the service members, staff, the board members, and most importantly, the people of Hamilton. Thank you.
So that moment in that clip where she says, quite frankly, that was always the key to me, that Terry Whitehead was going off on some like nonsense. And to hear that, I just thought, yeah, she was passed the baton by the old guard, and we are seeing that. And that is not what she sold the city when she became the mayor. So what was your take when you see that clip?
Well, when I see the clip, I mean, it just becomes, further evidence that we're in trouble. She is not, she's a terrible mayor. In my opinion, she's lazy, but most of all, she's a fake. She's a fake mayor, fake leader. And I think what we're going to have to do is really put pressure on all of the rest of council, is to say, please, please stay together, collaborate, because they're collaborating not because of her, it's in spite of her. And it is. And any bullshit that she spouts about, I'm proud of the collaboration, etc., is nonsense. Please, council, get together, stay together, move our city forward. Andrea is going to be a spectator in that. And don't fear her. She has no authority, moral authority or otherwise, to push back and say no. She's treated the police as if they're sacred, and she's treated staff as if they need to work harder to cut costs. That is literally what she has done. And I'll tell you this, I mean, I am a resident, if I was a staffer, and I said, well, okay, I mean, sure, you put pressure on us, that, we understand that. But then to sit by and watch the single largest budget item, the Hamilton Police Service, remain untouched and supported by Andrea is a mixed message that will not help build or sustain the new culture at City Hall with our new city manager. But that's what she did. That's what she did, and she's proud to do it. And she also said in a CH News clip that Councillor Kretsch and Dr. Menezes are irresponsible because of the approach they took to try to find $5 million to help save every resident in this city some money off their tax bill. She called them irresponsible, and she said she had the audacity to say, I'm responsible. I'm a responsible mayor, and I always will be. So yeah, go ahead. I'm ranting.
So it's enraging, because what she also said, which was clipped up by a member of the media, Mayor Horwath says she won't support this motion because she doesn't run the police service. Okay, talk about abdicating responsibility. She's on the freaking police services board. She said, you can know the cost of everything and the value of nothing, and worries going into the details could send a message to police that they are not valued or trusted. Like,
yeah, well,
one more time for the throw up factor. She said, you can know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. Thank you for the platitude, Mayor, Mom. Like, we didn't know that one. And worries going into the details could send a message to police that they are not valued or trusted. What the hell is that? Saying to somebody, let's review your budget items to ensure that we are being fiscally responsible, because as the mayor, I'm putting in this huge budget increase and I have a responsibility. And that is not sending a message that they're not valued or trusted. That is sending a message that you're actually a mayor, not a mayor in name only, and you're actually doing your job on the police services board, and you actually give a shit about the tax increase that Hamiltonians are facing. I know she makes $250,000 a year. I get that. But there are people in this town, many of whom who do not. And they care deeply about every single dime on that tax bill. And for her to not even want to look at a $20 million maintenance request from the police service and say, if we even so much as look at it, we're suggesting that we don't trust or value them, that is absolute horse shit. And I think it's sorry.
Well, it not only is horseshit, Laura, but bear in mind, she did exactly the opposite with the 8,500 people who earn their living in the corporation of the city of Hamilton.
So it's
somehow
it's pandering to police.
It's absolutely pandering.
In this, yeah. It's pandering and it's pathetic.
Well, here's the flip on that stupid phrase that Andrea used from my perspective at the Police Services Board. She doesn't know the cost of anything because she didn't put in the work, but she sees value in everything. So, because it's all good. Because I don't know how much any of it costs, I think it's all good. And it's like, okay, Andrea, turnabout is fair play. You want to use old bromides like that, then you got to live with the real version for you. You're just not doing the work. Right. And it's literally costing people in their tax bills, literally.
And the shaming of the two counselors who, by the way, she blocked them being able to advance into leadership roles on the police services
She
board. She
voted against them.
that.
Yes.
But to
And
have,
remember, one is a racialized woman,
right,
a doctor,
yeah,
who wanted to be vice chair, and Andrea said no.
and one was a gay man who has had a lot of problems with the police services over the years, but wanted to sit at that table and make a difference, Cameron Kretsch. And to his great credit, for the first time, he got the police services board to have to do an emergency meeting. And even though all 5 of their suggestions, their motions got completely overlooked and denied, it was a victory just to get that meeting yesterday. And, you know, for anyone who wants to watch the entire live stream, we'll put it in the link to the show. It's painful. It was comical at times. I compared it at one point to a gong show. You called it a kangaroo court. But the point is that this sacred massive budget ask that comes up every year, finally someone cracked into that and said that's not good enough. And now it's going back to council, and they'll decide whether or not they want to move to an appeal or the next step on this, or whether they just want to accept it. But what was really telling at the end of that meeting was Andrea Horwarth, like, so what's the message that's coming out of this? Because, you know, there's all these messages out there in the community and all these misunderstandings, and we shouldn't let all that stuff go forward. In other words, she wants them, you know, all to drink the Kool-Aid on this. And then she's like, so what's the message? But as she's there, one of the Oshow viewers pointed out, she grabbed her purse and she was like looking to bolt out of there as soon as she could. The body language was insane. So clearly she knows that what she was doing and what she was saying in that room was not what people elected her to do and to say. It just wasn't. She didn't have to take away any funding from the police, but she sure as hell had to look at it from the view of, is it doing enough in the bigger picture of how we are bringing our city into the future? And you nailed it, Graham, and I'll let you go on this point, my friend, before we talk to Cojo Damptey. But you nailed it when you said that she's actually harming civic progress. It's not just that she was absent, like John Moore called her this week in Toronto, you know, the U-boat captain of a mayor. Nobody can find her. It's not just that she's absent. It's that now when she's showing up, she is saying and voting on things that are shocking her supporters. I mean, shocking anyone who thought they knew her as the NDP leader of the province, of the NDP provincially, but shocking. It's shocking. It is shocking what she said yesterday, the votes she took. It is shocking how she voted on the LRT by kicking that thing down. It is shocking that she's not speaking up on homelessness, more on my op-ed and all that stuff later. Last thoughts to you, my friend?
Yeah, very quickly, Laura, just bear in mind, all viewers who are watching this, Andrea Horwath seconded Cameron Kretsch's motion to send the police budget back to the police service. This is at council. So she seconded it. So she agreed that it should go back. Then she sits on the board and she votes to approve it unchanged. Now you figure out that must be special logic, because I have trouble tracking that one. How do you vote to send it back? And then when it does go back, you say nothing except, I think it's a great budget. And if we change it,
to be performative, you do it to look good to the council, like you're taking. She did the exact same thing on LRT. All of these union reps came in, spent their day presenting about the operation of it being unionized. You would think of anybody in that committee meeting, she would have voted for that, so that when it got to council, maybe it had a chance of passing. But what did she do? She deferred it. So she didn't have to. So now when it goes to the full council and there aren't the votes to pass, she can side with the unions and like check a mark like she's done her thing. But these are tricks. It felt like a trick. It felt like we were watching her, as one union person said, parliamentary, whatever he called it. But it's just bullshit.
Well, we're watching, Andrea. We're watching intently, and we're communicating, and even the media is now following along too. So we'll see. Thanks, Laura.
I haven't seen a single person defend her, not one. And now they don't even. I mean, it's. You know, we still got a couple of years, and if she doesn't retire, which I hope she does, I hope she just decides she's had enough and we can try again. But if she doesn't retire, then we have to watch her, and we will here on the Oshow. And you can, as I said, I just can't give more of that insane meeting to this. I can't watch any more of it, but I will encourage you, if you have 90 minutes of suffering on your calendar, then this is the show for you. Watch the live stream of that meeting. We'll stay on it here on the Oshow. Graham Crawford, as always, you're amazing. Thanks so much. And coming up, we've got Cojo Damptey. I can't wait to hear his hot takes. Haven't had a chance to talk to him about this yet, but he is certainly invested in the police services budget. And so we'll see what Cojo has to say. Take care, Graham. Welcome back to the Oshow, our Valentine's special, because of what happened at the Police Service Board meeting. It was historic, it was shambolic, it was disturbing, it was enlightening, and I don't think it really progressed anything in terms of how we're going to spend our money as taxpayers in the coming year. But I do think that there were some important lessons from it, as Graham Crawford outlined for us in the previous segment. So joining us now for his take on it, I'd love his perspective on this, is Cojo Damptey. And Cojo, we've had you on the Oshow many times over the years talking about a whole bunch of issues, but policing has been one. And so what was your take when you saw not just the results of the meeting yesterday, but also the 130 plus comments? I mean, what was your takeaway?
Yeah, it was unfortunate that the board didn't spend time to go over some of the correspondence. And I just wanted to share one with you. And one said, I am a graduate of Laurier University, where I studied criminology, law, and society. From my extensive research, I'm confident to say an increase to policing is ineffective in reducing crime rates. This is somebody who is studying criminology, right? And 1 out of 136, making the argument that, increasing the budget doesn't equate to reducing crime rate. And this is where I'll transition to what was said in 2011 by Councillor Ferguson. And you should listen to this. He says, the police service 130 million budget surprised some councillors, right? And he says, it is time to fight back. The increases are out of control. That was in 2011 when the budget was 130. When 2024, the budget is 200 million. So you make from 70 million, right? So even on all accounts, some things didn't go right yesterday.
And you know what was painful for me was that, I mean, on the victory side of the column, it's the first time that I can remember where a councillor forced the budget to go back to the police services to have another look at it. It was, the attempt at the initial rubber stamping, just kind of fast tracking it through unquestioned, was pushed back by Councillor Kretsch. And so I thought that was great that we got that emergency meeting and forced them to look at it, or at least have the discussion on why they should look at it. So that was a win. But what I thought was such a loss was here you had two members of the board, Councillor Kretsch and Angeline, who's a medical doctor, take a week of their time to look through it carefully, line by line, and say, okay, of that $20 million increase, just for maintenance, not for more policing, just for maintenance, $1 million to the horse program for ceremonial stuff, money to their private PR, all this stuff. They're like, we can cut back on these things safely without affecting policing or community safety. I mean, we're doing a big tax increase. We're asking other groups within the city to find all these savings. We've obviously got a homelessness crisis on our streets that's growing. We've got a lot of other things we can be spending money on. Can't we just cut these things this year, right? And Cojo, it was not met with any kind of, in my mind, looking at the merits of those. It was met with a lot of, well, this isn't collaborative. Well, you don't understand. Well, I mean, the mayor even said, and I just can't with this. I've got to read it to you. And you tell me if I'm reading into this too much. She said she won't support the motions that came from Kretsch and from Angeli because she doesn't run the police service. I mean, she's on the board. She gets to vote, right? She said you can know the cost of everything and the value of nothing, and worries that going into the details, in other words, scrutinizing the budget, could send a message to police that they are not valued or trusted. So this is coming from an NDP mayor, and I'm just gobsmacked by that. So your take on it?
So first of there's a lot there. You know, I'm on lots of platforms. There's another platform, and people were talking about this. I won't mention the platform, but I will quote what somebody said. And this person lives in Ancaster, okay? Ancaster. They said, ridiculous and lazy. There's a lot of fat to cut, but they are just not interested, right? Another person on the West Mountain says, there is no way it costs 240 million to police a population of 579,000. Another person from Crawford says, disappointing. So even the how the meeting happened, people tuned in and were like, what is going on? Right? You forget the numbers and the cutting and the reducing and who supports, da 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 da. Just the running off the meeting was so ridiculous. You had everybody, even on Reddit, people were like, this is a kangaroo type of meeting. So
It was. Just even starting it. They tried to make it secret, then they found out that they couldn't. Then they said they didn't have a big enough room for the public. Then they moved, then they kicked the public out. Then they said their live stream wasn't working because it was too small of a room. I mean, if it wasn't for Joey Coleman ringing the alarm bells, going, this is our right to see this, I'm bringing my camera. Finally, they got their own live stream. But even before the kangaroo court started, they had an alarming approach to this meeting, as though they were forced to do it, but we didn't have any right to what they were doing on a $20 million, the biggest chunk of our budget during a post-pandemic inflation affordability crisis, you know, with a big tax increase coming, and they try to block us from seeing it, Kojo. I mean, that's madness, is it not?
yes, very undemocratic to say the least. And one thing I'll also add to is that look, everybody has become property tax focused this year, right? So when people saw some of the breakdowns, for example, the parking lot, right? 500K to fix a parking lot. Some people are like, you know what? I just don't want that this year. So then when you are bored and you can't even say, you know what, maybe 20,000 from here, 500K from here, 200K from here, get it down to a million. Maybe that's even like a show to say, hey, we're taking things seriously. And the additional piece too is that everybody was given a directive from the mayor's office that, listen, this year is tough. Don't come in with huge costs. So the question is, why is it that when it comes to the police, that same recommendations or requirements are not adhered to? And that's the question here.
Yeah. And you know what? So on that, it's a double standard, right? It didn't make any sense. And as Graham Crawford pointed out, brilliantly, actually, since our discussion, I saw he posted a meme. There was the mayor seconded the motion to go back to the police services board to look at the budget, even though she had told Cameron in a previous police service board meeting that wasn't the place to look at the budget, and the budget committee of the police services board didn't make sense. But she seconded it when he brought it to council. And then when it got there, she shot down everything and had it sent back to council with no changes. So it's kind of maddening, except for when you look at that language that I just read to you, where she says, going into the details could send a message to police that they are not valued or trusted. Like, to me, Kojo, that goes to your point. Why would the mayor be concerned about doing her job and it's sending some message to the police? Are they snowflakes? They can't handle scrutiny of their budget? Is it pandering to some sort of a base in this town? I mean, you're talking about people from Ancaster to Dundas to everywhere, watching it going, you can't do anything, like nothing, and now the mayor's saying she doesn't want to send a message that the police aren't valued and trusted. That to me sounds so old guard and so protective of the police. And you know what? We've got to get past this. And I thought we were electing somebody in her that would. I was alarmed yesterday, and I think a lot of her diehard supporters are as well. Like, what is going on with that? I don't get it. But just the idea that they can't handle scrutiny and it's not her job on the board to do it. I mean, what's the point of the police services board, Kojo? And what are we so afraid of by sending the police a message that they've got to get in line to help the city?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say is we are lacking ethical, political, visionary leadership in this city, right? Name the issue. Name the issue. Homelessness, houselessness, opioid crisis, tax increases, labor relations. Just go anywhere, and you're looking at a vacuum that has been that is there around political, ethical, integrity leadership. You know, Councillor Pauls, like we all know there's a conflict. Like let's not try and color things. And to have another councillor then say they are exonerated because one integrity commissioner says, you don't have a conflict. We all know. Like
Her
if
son's
that
on
was
the force. Her son's on the
exactly,
force.
and I'm saying, even if that was me, right, everybody would say there's a conflict. Even Councillor Danko, whose wife is a trustee. When all matters of schooling happens, he declares, right? So why is it that in this situation we say that there's no conflict? It's very disappointing, and you are seeing it from everybody. It doesn't matter what you believe, what political spectrum you are on. Everybody is like, look, we have a serious problem in this city, and it's very unfortunate.
Well,
Very.
I think you summarized it beautifully, and I'll leave you there, Kojo. It's a lack of ethical leadership. You couldn't have said it better. And I think we're banging our heads against the wall because we know that some of the people around that horseshoe are ethical people. I would argue more so than in past councils. And so to see that it doesn't translate into leadership. And I also put that, I always do at the feet of the mayor, whichever mayor it is, whatever mayor wins, I'll always say that, your job is bigger than council. You're elected by everyone in the city to lead. And so we need that. We need more ethical leadership on a host of issues. Thank you. For people who might not remember you, you ran for council. You got a lot of crap. And
that's old news, Laura. That's old.
No, but you had unethical things happen. You had calls in your campaign that were unethical. You had intimidation. People who were racist were trying to intimidate. And I must say, you never took donations corporately, stayed away from that. So you're a man of high ethics. So when you make that comment, Kojo, I just want our audience who might not know you to know that, you live ethically, you govern or you lead ethically. And I hope you keep doing it. And I very much take your words to heart. Thank you for being on the Oshow again, Kojo.
Thank you.
And thank you all of you who are watching right across Ontario. I'd love to hear how your police services boards are handling this stuff. And yeah, if you're wondering what happened to Andrea Horwarth, the leader of the NDP, with everything happening in Hamilton, we are wondering that too. Have a wonderful Valentine's and the rest of the week. We'll be back with a special on the homeless crisis with somebody who has direct experience of the loss and is active, and big things are happening in Hamilton. And we're going to talk about all of that, including my op-ed in The Spectator. Have a great week. Take care.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the Oshow. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the Oshow. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the Oshow. It's the Oshow. Laura Babcock's the Oshow. With a lot of great guests, she puts them to the test on the Oshow. There's no doubt they'll be calling them out on the Oshow. Stand for something or fall for it all. Ontario, hear the call of the Oshow. It's a podcast, the Oshow. Laura Babcock's the Oshow. Stay informed with the Oshow.